Hello to everyone that is coming in. As people are entering in, just want to let you all know you are on mute. Excited for you all to be here. We're going to let everyone get logged in and start here in just a moment. Got a few more people coming in. Welcome to all that are joining. Just letting everyone get coming in here, and we'll get started here in just a second. For those of you who are joining, you are on mute, so if you're talking, we can't hear you. You can raise your hand or unmute yourself if you need to say something. And feel free to share cameras if you would like. We are creating a community online here, so you are welcome to share cameras if you'd like. Totally fine if you can't or don't want to. Okay. I feel like we have a good amount of people here so far, so why don't we go ahead and get started, just making sure that we have enough time to get through everything. So Alexis, why don't you kick us off?
Great. Well, welcome everyone. We are meeting today to talk about building a successful Salesforce Center of Excellence. The Salesforce for Insurance and Community Group is here to help facilitate conversation and amongst our peers all across the world. We have some people from New Zealand even and others who are interested in this group. So we want to first of all thank you all for taking the time to be here with us and to talk with us today. As many of you know, success is built from sharing together what is going well, our failures, and that sort of thing. So thanks for taking time to join in the conversation. As Danielle mentioned before, if you're willing to, it'd be great for you to share your camera and so that we can help foster that community. It's hard with an online group since we're not in person. But otherwise, please, throughout this, feel free to unmute yourself. Everyone is muted automatically when they dial in. At any point in time, if you have questions, feedback, want to add to the discussion, please just dive right in. This is meant to be a conversation between all of us, more so than just a presentation. So please feel free to do that. And as we discussed today, as Salesforce says, the purpose of these community groups is to help ensure that we succeed together. Hi, Lisa. All right, so agenda today. We're going to kick off with short introductions, and then Mike Martin is going to share with us how to build a successful center of excellence. And one of the things I was most excited to hear is that 91% of companies that see an ROI from Salesforce are those that have a center of excellence. So I know at my company, that question has come up, do you need it, do you not? There's lots of conversation around it. So I'm looking forward to hearing what Mike has to say about that today. Afterwards, we're gonna dive into our group discussion, and we've got 20 minutes for that. So please bring your conversation, please bring your questions and feedback. We'd really like to make this an open discussion. If you click on the chat section of this video, you will see the questions that we've posted for the end of this. And so if you guys could please be considering that and jotting down some notes, that would really help when we get to the discussion section. After that, we're going to dive into the Spring 20 release highlights for insurance that Danielle's going to go over for us, and close up with some general announcements, including our guest speakers for our next event. So that said, my name is Alexis Kuhn. I am a project manager at MedPro Group. I've been here 4 years, and Danielle and I have been co-leading this group together for almost a year. And I'm going to let her take it over from here, introduce herself, and introduce Mike.
Hello, I am Danielle Laffey. I am the Principal of Insurance Solutions at Silverline. I've been in the Salesforce ecosystem for a long time, since 2007, and again, recently took over the group with Alexis for Insurance Group. So, so excited to be here, and I'm a recent transplant to Florida. I was originally in Indianapolis and leading the group up in Indianapolis with Mike. So that's kind of fun. And that puts me into Mike. So Mike Martin is a Salesforce MVP. He has been around the ecosystem since 2008 is when I met him at my first user group when there was 3 or 4 people, I think, in a cafeteria back in the day for Indianapolis. And he has quickly grown. He was with Aperio for a long time and is now with 10K advisors. He lives in Indianapolis still. If you guys know anything about this man, he loves his craft beer. And he loves his life. And I think that he even actually has a real Salesforce Lego replica of himself, if I remember correctly.
Oh, I do. Yeah, it's in my bag. I'll have to dig it out.
So fun tidbit of information about Mike Martin. But he's here to talk about Center of Excellence. We're so excited to have him here to report some of the findings that he and the group over at 10 Advisors did for the Center of Excellence. So with that, I will pass the torch over.
Awesome. Thanks, Danielle, for that warm welcome. Yeah, I'll find Mini-Mike when the questions start, and I'll pop him out too. So let me see. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Hopefully you can see my presentation. Why do you need a Center of Excellence? Awesome. So a little bit about what we're going to talk about today. Give you a little bit more insight into kind of why we're here, why Mike and 10K are talking about Center of Excellence. That alludes to the research that Alexis mentioned earlier. We'll talk about what a Center of Excellence is and why it's important. I've actually talked with a couple of folks on the call about their internal centers of excellence. So by no means are we experts in this, but we have seen things that work and things that don't, but would love to make this interactive. So Alexis, Danielle, if you could kind of monitor the questions, feel free to stop me as we go through. I know we've got the questions to answer at the end as well, but would love to make this as interactive as possible. I'll talk a little bit about what it means to set up a COE in your organization, and that does definitely vary based on organization. A COE can be as simple as a solo admin, as long as the right processes are in place, and then it can also be over 100 people working on multiple Salesforce instances. So we'll talk about setting up objectives and executing the process, and then obviously the last piece that we always want to remember is measuring the success of a COE. So what does that mean? So what is a Center of Excellence? I'll talk a little bit about 10K. So 10K Advisors is a network of independent contractors and small consulting companies. We are a registered partner in the Salesforce ecosystem. And we've been around about 5 years in a couple of different iterations, primarily focused on helping other Salesforce partners and small consulting companies find the specialized skill sets and expertise that they may not be able to find on their own. So we work with 6 or 7 companies out of India, as well as a number of specialized experts within the US and UK, primarily focused on things like technical architecture, business analysis and business architecture, so things like setting up centers of excellence, and then other products that, as you probably know, Salesforce is so incredibly broad. It's hard for anybody to be an expert in everything. So we have kind of the stopgap for a lot of these smaller partners that may not be able to hire a marketing cloud expert on their own. We can support them with that. So as a part of our place in the ecosystem, we're led by 4 Salesforce MVPs. We really felt it was important for us to do some research and share that with the ecosystem, basically kind of proving what we already knew, but we wanted to have the numbers to back it up. So we've done 3 research reports over the last 2 years or so. 2 of those primarily focused on the talent ecosystem, both supply and demand side of that. But last summer, we wanted to take a little bit of a different perspective and look at what does it mean for a customer to be successful with their Salesforce implementation. So kind of the process we went through We actually sent out a survey. I think we had over 300 folks respond to that. And then we also had kind of a friends and family where we reached out to some folks that we know that have successful implementations, and had some one-on-one conversations about what makes a successful implementation. And as Alexis alluded to, we found that for those that have some sort of center of excellence, 91% of those reported that their return on investment was very, very high. And that correlated to 72% that said they had a Salesforce Center of Excellence had a high return on investment, and then it was acceptable if for 41%, it was acceptable. So you can see that having a Center of Excellence, the more folks that have a Center of Excellence, the higher ROI they report. We also had them grade their implementation, and so of those 82% that had some sort of Center of Excellence, graded their implementation with an A, down to only 24% that had a Center of Excellence graded at a C. So there's definitely correlation between Center of Excellence and some sort of process and governance about managing your Salesforce implementation, and the return on investment, as well as the grade that you get. So as I mentioned, in some organizations, a team of one can be responsible for everything. Others may have, over 100 experts working on their implementation. Regardless of the team size or composition, to create successful outcomes with Salesforce, you want to have some specific bases covered that we'll dive into in a little bit. So even with the numbers that I talked about, 40% of customers still have no sort of COE in place. So it presents a huge opportunity, and it's probably why you're all on the phone today, for hundreds of thousands of Salesforce customers to get more from their existing investments. So if you look at the screen here, this is one example of what a Center of Excellence might look like. You probably have some sort of executive committee that's setting the vision, and probably a steering committee that's a little bit more tactical, but still kind of at the top level. You should have some sort of Center of Excellence lead. And then the core team, which can include project managers or product managers, business analysts, technical architects, Salesforce admins, functional leads, quality assurance leads, release managers, integration architect. You may or may not have all of those roles in your organization. You may be relying some on external partners, or you may have one person that's playing the PM, BA, and admin role. And that's fine, as long as those types of functions are covered in your Center of Excellence. So we talked a little bit about the numbers here already. How do you set up a Center of Excellence in your organization? So part of it is you want to spend time and talk to each of the stakeholder groups that are mentioned here. Make sure you have their buy-in. But really, a Center of Excellence needs to come from the top. What we found is most successful is if there is executive support for determining what the roadmap for an implementation is going to be. That's really the key to success in a Center of Excellence.
Hey, Mike, can I pause you real quick?
Please do.
Quick question. If you go back to the first page on the team structure that you had there, I just want to pause there. Did anyone have any initial questions here? I see there's a lot of roles there with the core team and that filtering up. Let's just pause there real quick. Any questions about that setup initially? Okay, and can you highlight again the value of how I see you noticed the different functional areas in there and all of those team members. What's the value of pulling all of those together into one team versus, another structure of, let's just say I just want to focus, I want my internal company, I want my team members focused on just their function rather than on Salesforce. What value do you see in this structure?
Yeah, we found both in our research and anecdotally with our customers that the most successful Salesforce implementations have cross-functional ownership. So that means that not just IT or not just business is owning the implementation. It's a combination of the two, and those roles are well defined on who sets the roadmap and where they need to go. Oftentimes, Salesforce is, especially in larger organizations, Salesforce is one of the cogs in the wheel, and so you're probably not just focused on Salesforce from a business or IT perspective. You have other systems in play, and it's important to have buy-in for all of the systems that Salesforce touches, but also a broader picture of what the whole process looks like. And that's going to help you be more successful overall. So hopefully that at least starts to answer the question. Any follow-ups there, Alexis?
Nothing I see on chat. Thank you. Thanks so much.
Great. All right.
And I'm actually going to stop you one more time if you want to go back to the next slide. One thing that I wanted to point out, and you can chat a little bit about it, all the different stakeholders are in here. I noticed that you have on the top right hand, or the top left hand, is end users. I have worked with a lot of companies over my tenure, and sometimes I feel as though that the end users are not necessarily, they don't have a huge voice in the implementation of a Salesforce implementation as you're bringing it up and about. Can you talk to me about why that's important and why you feel as though that they are a stakeholder in along with this?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times an admin will think that they're representing their users well, but there's always things that we don't think about as we're focused on the technology versus just the process. So, it's one of those core values of Agile is user feedback early and often, and I think that applies to the overall center of excellence around what the core function of the platform is. So it is important to have that user feedback. You may not want them in there daily, but at least doing monthly, quarterly readouts to the end users to make sure that what your direction looks like actually meets their needs, because then you go back in. If you don't, you go back into that waterfall of, hey, we're going into a closet for 9 months, we're building something, and if it meets your needs, great, but if it doesn't, sorry, we're going to do another 9-month project. So that user feedback is incredibly important and should be a part of the Center of Excellence.
Yep. Thanks.
Sure.
Are those, do you include just power users, or do you include people who absolutely hate Salesforce?
That's a really, really good question. And anecdotally, when I was at another large SI, Aperio, one of our big customers, that was the approach that we recommended they take, is find the people that hate Salesforce the most, and win them over. And when you do, you're building a system that's going to work. It was a challenge. It took longer than it should have, because there were, people didn't want to be in the room. They hated it. They didn't see the value. But when you spend the time to figure out why they're unhappy, and bring them along, you're going to bring the whole organization along much more quickly. Actually, that company was the first company that I experienced a successful center of excellence in. And there are a lot of things that we can learn from that experience, and that's where a lot of this content actually comes from, is that specific organization.
Thanks.
Cool.
Awesome. Okay, so some key components of Center of Excellence. We've alluded to some of this along the way. Our CEO at 10K, Nick Ham, is actually in the middle of a blog series that highlights each and every one of these. So I'll pull out some highlights from each of the first couple. And actually I think governance change and release management went live either Friday or today. So if you want to do a quick search for hashtag SFDCCOE, you'll find all that great content on all of your favorite social platforms. So that'll finish my plug. But
what's that hashtag again? One more time. I'm sorry.
It's right there on the slide. It's hashtag SFDCCOE.
Oh, I see it. Thank you.
Sure. So team roles and structure. Obviously, when you're thinking about a center of excellence, you need to understand who's going to be a part of it, and not just what their specific role is going to be. So some of the key roles, and we've alluded to some of these already, obviously the COE lead, responsible for overall program execution, your Salesforce admin, responsible for supporting those across the business who use Salesforce. Oftentimes that's a jack of all trades. Your business analyst, again, that might be an admin, so that may be played by the same role. Sometimes it's a different role. They're working hand in hand with the business to understand what the operational processes should be, and not just turning technology on, but really understanding the why behind everything that you're doing. That's a key component of your success, right? Technical architect, typically going to be the person that owns the technical design of the Salesforce system. Sometimes this is an internal role at bigger organizations. More often than not, this is one of those roles that a Salesforce partner is going to include initially, that you may not necessarily have access to after you're done. But having at least some sort of architecture overview and support, even if it's a little bit more generic from your enterprise architecture team, is important, especially as you're talking about things like integration and how systems talk back and forth. Depending on the complexity, I think we're talking to quite a few large organizations today. So many times you're going to have developers. Again, those could be internal or external. And then some additional roles that some of the other larger organizations see. Release management. This is typically somebody that has some sort of development background, but also is really just focused on what lives in what environment and when, and coordinating that release process, either with hopefully with some tools or potentially manually. QA, another role that's often forgotten, and typically what I've seen is the first to go when a budget is cut for a services engagement, but it's an essential role in making sure that you're building what you say you're going to build. Integration specialists, and then potentially functional specialists, things like product specialists like Communities, CPQ, Einstein. So subject matter experts that know a specific platform a little bit better than another. So those are some of the key roles, and obviously leadership is important as well. We alluded to the executive committee, which is typically going to be made up of C-level or VP level folks. Salesforce steering committee, made up of sponsors from the business and IT, but typically they're one or two levels lower than the executive committee. Again, these are folks that are a little bit more hands-on. They're probably managing the folks that are on the core team. And really, one tip for success is to include the COE lead in as many committee meetings as possible, regardless of whether or not that role is an official member of the committee. So it's really that COE lead's role to insert themselves into the conversation and make sure discussions around Salesforce get included in the Center of Excellence. It's easy to set something like this up and you just meet quarterly and that's it. It's not going to be as successful unless you have somebody that really takes ownership. I'll pause there. Any questions about team roles and structure? Cool.
I have one real quick. What's the alternative model to a Center of Excellence that you're seeing in companies? So all of the stuff that I'm seeing at our company, we don't have a specific Center of Excellence, but we are tackling a lot of these things in, piecemeal and different things. So what other approaches, models are you seeing?
Yeah, I mean, I would say if you are handling most of these things, you do have some sort of Center of Excellence because you're thinking about them. So that's the key, is are you thinking about what your delivery standards and processes are? Do you have a governance process in place? Do you understand what change and release management means for your organization? Do you have a way to support your end users? Is there a way to continue education and growth? Even if it's not a centralized function, you have the core components. Maybe it's time to just pull them all together and at least have that overarching layer of, hey, let's have these things are all happening independently. Let's make sure we're not stepping on each other's toes, and let's make sure that we're all moving in the same direction.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Dylan.
Yeah, the question that I have is, having run some COEs, 9 to 15 people is a pretty standard head count. Mm-hmm. The trouble that I've observed is if, as Danielle says, they're doing it virtually, that's fine because you're addressing all the pieces. What I found was when you formalize it and set it out, it raises the visibility to a level where suddenly people go, hang on a minute, we've got 15 people doing Salesforce. What? Mm-hmm. and that's a challenge. And my question as you go through this is categorically the right answer, but could you help us sell it? That's it.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Yeah. Why do you see that as a challenge? Is it just organizational resistance to Salesforce as a whole, or is it, oh my gosh, we're spending so much money on it that we didn't know that we were? What do you think that resistance is coming from?
Well, in the instance of that client, it was really that I think we were more organized and a great deal more professional than any of the other application delivery teams.
Got it.
And then that kind of sort of twisted a lot of noses, I think.
Yeah, a lot of times that's where that executive sponsorship, driving from the top down comes into play, so they can have your back. But that you don't always get that. Even at some of these organizations that are doing it successfully, the top leadership sets the vision and then steps back. So it is absolutely a sales process. I talked about that in a couple of my other presentations. When you see that resistance, make sure you're selling the return on investment and the value for the overall organization. And sometimes that just takes time.
Yeah.
That's great. And thank you very much.
Sure. Thanks for the feedback.
Yeah, good question.
All right. So talking about delivery standards and processes, some of the things that you might want to have standards around can be things like metadata creation, things like naming conventions, descriptions, and help text that will help give you more consistent and easily maintainable implementation. This kind of goes back to one of my favorite titled presentations that I've given at a couple of the community events called Org's Gone Wild, an admin's guide to org simplification. Really comes down to documentation and tying what you're doing back to a specific business requirement. And that's really what this delivery standard and process comes down to. It's have a way of tracking what you're doing, knowing why you're doing it, and being able to, again, sell that value and understand what the value is. And if that value is not there, you probably don't want to do that. So things like feature usage, depending on specifics of the implementation, you may choose to use certain Salesforce features over others, and document why and how you do that. I can't count the number of customer situations I've walked into where they say, well, I know that our partner just told us to do this, but I don't remember why. Documenting those types of things can help anybody. There's always turnover in these types of situations, both from the partner and the internal side. So the more that you can document, the better. I know that's something that always goes out the window with time, and I'm guilty of it as well. But that's part of why delivery standards and processes can help you be more successful, is because you do have a way and at least a process for documenting all of that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Anybody on the call have some sort of coding standard or code quality metrics that they use? I think that's something
we do at Metro. Yeah.
Something that's very important. It's a lot of times hard to manage, especially if you're on the admin side. Does this code meet quality? There's some automated tests that you can run, some tools there that are available, but also, do you have some sort of code review process? So everything that's written is reviewed by either a technical lead or someone other than the person that wrote it, just for that extra set of eyes and making sure that it follows those standards.
Yeah.
Requirements, definition standards, success criteria, metrics, user acceptance criteria, proposed solution design, other things that are important when you're talking about delivery standards and process. Other questions? Cool. So governance, change, and release management. How many of you have spent a long time on a project or delivering a feature? You turn it on, you go live, and then you're done. You celebrate. It's all over, right? That's rare, right? How do your users know about what you've built? What is the process for maintaining what's been released? How do you approach organizational change? Hey, maybe it's just a new field. You probably don't need anything super serious about that. But what if you're turning on a whole new set of functionality? What does the change and release management process look like? doesn't really matter what process you use, as long as you have some sort of way of engaging your users, making sure that they're aware of what's been released, and then obviously they're trained and enabled on what's been built. Anybody have success or horror stories they want to share around releasing features? Anything good on change and release management?
Yeah,
There's got to be some horror stories.
I got one.
Cool.
We had a client and they'd engaged one of the big six to do delivery, and it was constrained to requirements and development. And so what was happening was the requirements were being put in the backlog, the code was being developed, and everything was fantastic, except the client had no way to put it into production. And they had already committed to the business for a year, the delivery dates. And so it was an emergency scramble to put in DevOps and do hybrid agile and pull together a COE, because it was basically just not going to go live. And we made it.
Wow.
But that's a horror story. You know, there you go.
Yes.
Thanks.
Anyone have something they can celebrate? That's a downer.
Well, we got it done, and
there you go. There you go.
There you go. That's a celebration.
Perfect. Well, cool. I know we're heading up on our time here, but end user support, incredibly important as well. Making sure that users have a path to go to, both to request new features once they're live, but also to support anything that's been launched. And then obviously education and growth, both for your internal team, understanding obviously 3 new releases a year. Some of the other products are coming out more frequently. What's new in Salesforce? How can your organization take advantage of it? What is the impact going to be of a release? They do a lot to make sure that there's little to no impact, but as we get more and more complex in some of these Salesforce implementations, what's going to break when the summer release comes out? Those types of things. And then obviously education and growth of your end users, things like Trailhead, other ways, community groups, community events, those types of things. So with that, the last piece I want to mention briefly is, how do you measure the success of a center of excellence? So these again are from our research. There's a link there, and I'll share these slides with the team that'll go out in the chatter group. But some of the things that both LOB is line of business and then IT, how many of the folks that we surveyed saw these benefits from a center of excellence? Things like a revenue increase, productivity increase, cost savings, reduction of open help tickets. What is user adoption? I think that one's really interesting. 43% of the folks we surveyed saw a benefit in user adoption. Look at how much lower the line of business is than IT. I wonder if that's a perspective issue. Hey, we built exactly what the business asked for, but are they using it? Well, sure they are. Well, are they really, according to the line of business? I thought that was really intriguing. And then obviously customer specific metrics, other ways to measure success in an implementation. With that, I think that's the formal presentation. Happy to stick around for a few more minutes, answer questions, help with the discussion.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Mike.
Yes, thank you.
Excellent.
I say, Mike, I think you have to start sharing so that Alexis can share the group questions, and we've got some questions here to come up. They're also in the chat if you guys go and look at the chat feature. But as Alexis,
I'm not seeing them in chat actually.
Oh, let me redo it.
Hang on. Yeah, I think it might, because if I did it early on and people hadn't joined yet, that might have been it.
Okay, right. Now I see stuff. Got it.
So first question as she's going on, any specific questions for Mike?
All right, well, let's dive in then with, we want to hear from you guys. So we'd love to hear, we've got, looks like about 20, 25 people on. how many of you have a center of excellence right now? So if you could just speak up and share if you have a center of excellence and what company you're with and how long you guys have had it there.
Hey, this is Evan with Exceed Consulting. Our financial services practice is quite new, but we have centers of excellence for architecture and architecture team, kind of a functional team, and like a dev team and a marketing cloud team. And it's worked pretty well. I know if the leader is an SME and is, it all depends on who the leader is, but there's and the ability for the executive team, the higher level leadership to kind of make decisions, but it's generally worked pretty well with kind of getting everyone on board and talking about different things and at least being you know kind of standardizing processes and things like that. So yeah.
That's great. Thank you. And from the get-go, did you guys know when you first brought on Salesforce that you wanted to build a COE, or how did that come to evolve?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. We are a Salesforce partner, Salesforce consulting company, so we've been using Salesforce for a while to help out other clients. But I think we started with a center of excellence several years ago, and that kind of dropped off, and that's been picked up a little bit now. And I think we brought it on because there was some turnover and we hired new people, and we want everyone to work more as a team and be on the same page in terms of what's best practice for UAT and what's best practice for deployments, and making a change log and mapping requirements to specific items that have been built. So I think that's really I think the biggest benefit of our COE practice and why it's started up again.
That makes sense. I like that you highlighted turnover, which all companies will see. And I know Mike touched on that point, and I think that's a very strong case for it in and of itself, right? Every company is going to see turnover. And so if you have a COE stood up, then that helps to ensure that that goes more smoothly. That's great.
Yep.
And document. That's all I can say.
Everyone's favorite task, but it has to be done, right? Yeah.
Something happened 5 years ago. Why on earth did we do it this way? Well, because we didn't have a feature or functionality that we wanted to do it. So we created this workaround to make this happen. And now it's breaking things, and, understanding why that is definitely helpful. So document.
So who else has a center of excellence? Anyone else? Let's go to the next one. Who is interested in building a center of excellence? Or is anyone facing resistance at the company? So it sounds like the rest of us don't have one. Are you guys trying to build one? Are you facing resistance? Has the conversation even come up? Is this the first time you've heard of COE? Let's hear from some of the rest of you.
Hi, this is Adam Payne at Liberty Mutual. We don't have any resistance, but I think it's largely because our approach so far has been let's build one quietly internally within our team. Get things to the point where we feel like we've got a good approach, and then maybe take it out a little bit more broadly. And Mike, some of the things you were talking about, like the measuring, those are things we're really focusing on. making sure that we've been able to help people understand the value and the benefit that the Salesforce platform is bringing, and almost make it like a no-brainer as to why we would want to take this step.
That is brilliant, Adam. Wow, I think that makes a lot of sense. And how long have you guys been working on that, building that up quietly, internally, trying to set that up?
It's been probably since about halfway through last year. We've been thinking about it and saying it internally within our team for quite a while, but we didn't really start sitting down and trying to move forward on it until about mid-year last year.
So I'm curious, what's been the most difficult piece so far for you guys to get set up?
It's probably finding the time to really focus on establishing it, in addition to getting everything else done that we're working on.
Right? Yeah, it's not your full-time job to set up a COE. Nobody
Right.
has time for that. It's hard to get that sort of buy-in. So on the side, I know we've seen that too on the side. If we ever do have a lull in our work, then we'll say, okay, somebody go focus on building out that release management documentation. Go focus on building some of that out. But you never have that huge block of time just to sit down and focus on it. That makes sense.
I'm curious, are you guys looking at it from a technology standpoint? Do you look at it as a line of business? I've worked with other companies who are, trying to figure out where they would build that small and then disseminate it out into the larger organization.
We're starting within the platform. So, from the technology side, and we've got both, we're aligned with developers on the IT side and admins on the business side, and we're approaching it together. So it's a partnership between business, Salesforce experts and IT experts, as we're working to develop this.
Yeah, cool. I'm excited to hear how it goes.
Yes.
Thanks for sharing.
Who else has one that they're working on building up or are interested in building one?
I can actually talk about a current client of mine that I'm working with. They have a lot of resistance. They have a Salesforce, had it for several years, like 10 plus, I think, and they use it in a particular line of business in a very specific way. They're bringing on a new line of business and are taking the opportunity to do that and revamp it so that it works, maybe in a way that you would build Salesforce today as opposed to building it 10 years ago and adding on since there's all these new things that are coming out. And so their perspective on it is, we're going to take this line of business, build the technology around it the right way that they want so that it's focused on the customer specifically, and have all of the processes built in and around that to be able to go back to the other side of the business with the several different lines of business on the other side, and push that information as a center of excellence, basically, to say this is the way that we should be doing it going forward, and here are the key metrics as to why we should be doing it this way versus the other way.
I have a question for anyone out there, otherwise default to Mike. For those who have those clients that have a center of excellence for Salesforce, do you see that they also have a center of excellence for any of the other systems that they have within their company or tools? Or is it just Salesforce? Is that spurring, them to say, hey, maybe we need to build this up for one of our other, tools that we're using? What are you seeing out there?
I'm looking. It looks like we may have lost Mike, actually.
That's okay. Can you speak to that, Danielle? Have you seen that with any of your clients that you guys work with?
I don't know that I would have as eloquent an answer as Mike does on that one.
Sure. What about, okay.
I can tell you that in 20 years of consulting, I have never seen a company that has a COE apart from SAP. In other words, a COE that relates to SAP. But other than that, I have never seen one.
Interesting. That's helpful.
My
Thank
company, my company did try to set up a COE around just agile when we were moving to everyone agile methodology. Which I don't know if that necessarily counts or not, as an actual center of excellence or more of a study group. I know we've tried a couple of times to do various COEs at my company to the point where it's starting to become a negative term, or has, and so no one really wants to even use it anymore. So no one's actually proposing, hey, let's set up a center of excellence, because it's like, oh, that's just going to be a thing that fails, or doesn't pan out, it doesn't give us any value. So it's like the term has been poisoned at my company.
That's a really good point, and that I'm sure fed into Adam some of the rationale for you guys wanting to start it quietly and small and build it up successfully, because there are going to be pitfalls as you're standing it up and getting it going. There are going to be misses, and I mean, Mike, can you share what are a few things that have made it a negative term in your company?
Let's see. Never really having a direct goal, never having any metrics or anything to show why it succeeds. People kind of lose interest over time. No proof that it actually works. I think some of it actually is kind of the focus of it was more on, I would say more like I guess you could say training and knowledge sharing and learning, as opposed to like an architecture group or like a systems group type thing. And so maybe it's just a naming convention with the way we were using it versus what it really should be. And for groups that would have, negative connotations, it might even be worth calling it something else, like maybe the Salesforce steering committee, or I don't know, calling it something slightly different to kind of disguise what it really is. A very classic government trick there, I guess you could say.
That's interesting.
This is Amanda Ware. So I work at Principal Financial Group, and we actually do have a Salesforce Center of Excellence. And I think overall it has been a good experience. I think sometimes though some of the development teams will look at a project and say, oh, do I really have to take this before the COE before I launch? And it's more of a red tape. And the red tape involved and the time that it takes to go through the official kind of channels to make sure that, hey, everybody's on board, that all of the architects have had a chance to look at it. And so overall, I think it is a really good thing, but sometimes it's just seen as one more piece of red tape.
Yeah.
That's interesting. That makes a lot of sense. Interesting. And then when it goes through the COE, is it, so is it seen, does the process seem to go slow as it goes to the COE, or is it the COE filters out and says, hey, before we dive in, you might want to consider this, and that slows it down?
Right. So I think sometimes it's, the COE is bringing up points of, have you considered this? Have you considered this? And hey, this needs to go through a security review on our security side. So sometimes it really can slow it down. And other times it really just is okay, well, just bring back this other information. And then, it quickly moves through the process.
That's interesting. I know at our company, we have some of that too. I'm guilty of that, right? I just want to build, I just want to go, I want to do. And, but you need those processes in place to help pump the brakes to see how it's going to affect the rest of your enterprise. And it has to go through that. Otherwise it would fail. So that's a really good point. Well, let's take, are there any more questions or feedback here? Otherwise, we're going to hand it over to Danielle to walk us through the Spring 20 release highlights. All right. Well, we will be posting this recording and the slide deck on our chatter group for the insurance community. So be sure to look there, or you can reach out to Danielle or I directly if you have questions. But Danielle, I'll stop sharing, you can take over from here.
Awesome. Thank you. I can share my desktop here real quick. Can you see my screen okay?
Yep.
Awesome. Okay. So there was honestly not a ton of release information from a insurance, especially the FSC for insurance presentation. So take you through a couple of them specifically. We have the distributor performance management for insurance, which came out, which is big and something that that they've been working on for a while. It was kind of, they've been figuring out through the roadmap. I was talking to Kelly Utley, who's the product manager over there, on what it is that they're going to be bringing forth. And one of the things that was definitely missing was the distribution channel and how to better work with them. So that was a really big focus. They have the Einstein referral scoring and then the action plan enhancements as well. That is not specific to just insurance, but the overall FSC models. So we're going to kind of go through those three really quick. And then there is a specific link that I will share out to the collaboration group on just the highlights overall. So you probably didn't want to read the 524 pages of release notes that were out there. I don't know why. I mean, everyone has that time in their day, right? Anyway, there's a snippet that goes specifically for the insurance vertical, including some of the enhancements to life events and milestones, and just little fixes that they did. So we'll make sure that you guys have that as well, but those aren't specifically highlighted here. So again, they've got this distributor performance management for insurance. We're going to share this deck out later so that you'll be able to have information for these particular ones, but I can bring over the release notes really quick for this to kind of show you exactly what it is. It is the ability to monitor the performance of all of the different distributors that you guys have within your organization from a sales manager perspective. There is a component that was built specifically for this. And then also some dashboards that were built in and around this that are pre-built within the FSC for insurance. So if you have the FSC for insurance permission set and you're in Lightning Experience, you'll have access to both of these items. I'm going to do something that we haven't ever done before, so we're going to try it. I got a really nice minute and a half demo of this. So I'm going to see if I can show this to you on YouTube real quick and see if we can get this to play.
Danielle, we're not seeing, sorry, we were seeing it before. If you can pull that back over to the screen you just had it on, that's where we were seeing it from. Yeah, there you go. Thanks.
So you can see that, but you can't see my YouTube screen?
I could just see whatever you just did with your YouTube screen, I could see it a second ago.
Let me stop and reshare again. Let's see, stop share. Okay, and we're gonna try this one more time and reshare. Okay, can you guys see the YouTube screen now?
Yep, now we can, thanks.
Perfect, no problem. Gotta love virtual meetings, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is about a minute and it explains the insurance distribution model, since I didn't get access to an org to see this and play with it my own yet.
Distributor performance management for insurance allows insurance carriers to track and assess the performance of their distributors. As a territory sales manager, I need to understand how the distributors I manage are performing. These out-of-the-box dashboard and reports give me insights into sales and renewals by distributor and policy type. Additional dashboards and analyses are also available with Einstein Analytics for Financial Services. On the homepage, I can see an analysis that highlights the products and policy types my distributors are selling and identifies white space opportunities. Let's say we want to get more details about a specific distributor. I can go to the account page and see the performance of the distributor as well as the specific agents working for the distributor. The Insurance Data Model in Financial Services Cloud has been enhanced to capture the license and authorization information of agents. On the distributor's account page, I can visualize and capture key business milestones for the distributor, like acquisitions and executive changes. I also have producer relationship cards that showcase the specific producers and agents working for this distributor, along with key information like producer IDs, producer types, and licensed and authorized LOAs. To gather and track information about the specific agents working for a distributor, I can go into the contact pages for the agents and add information into the life events component, which is now supported on the contact page as well. With distributor performance management, insurance carriers can gain insights on their distributor relationships and performance, and as a result, better align goals with their distributors.
Awesome. I don't know if anyone has any particular feedback on that. If that's something that your company had an interest in, needed solutions for, etc. There's kind of a couple of different things that were all popped into there, including, you know, the life events information was put into there. Go ahead, Dylan.
One of the questions that I have is, what is the predictive piece or the intelligence piece that is within those over and above what we would understand to be regular reporting?
So they have Einstein for Analytics that's out. We actually had the product manager come a couple of months ago, so we can find that video recording link and send that over to you. But it's some Einstein Analytics that they have that's kind of driving that. So it's a little bit above and beyond what the FSC for insurance is. So it's taking all of the different components and pieces of the metadata around the FSC for insurance model, pulling all that information together, and then using Einstein to push that information out into dashboards and components.
Okay, that is excellent. And yes, I would absolutely love the link you just did, and that other one you just referenced would be very helpful. Thank you.
Perfect. Love to.
Great job.
Awesome. Okay, share again really quick. Sorry for all the shares over and over again. So this is not specific to the insurance vertical, but I know that it is in the FSC specific information. And it's something that my clients, when I'm working in the insurance vertical, use on a regular basis is referrals, and getting referrals from agents to agents and being able to know, prioritizing the pipeline of who people should be calling, whether that's an internal agent or an external agent, or, you know, somebody in your distribution channel who's looking to sell the particular product or book of business. So I actually have a release notes. See if I can pull this one over now, and hopefully you guys can see this. Let me know if you can see this one or not.
We saw it before. It looks like you pulled it off of a screen. We can see your release notes screen right now.
So weird. Okay, stop sharing, reshare again. Apparently Zoom just does not like me today, so I apologize, guys. All right, one more time. Now can you see it?
Yep.
Okay, so again, this particular demo does talk about the banking world, but it does apply to insurance and the ability to get referrals and be able to prioritize those with Einstein lead scoring as well. So I'll play this one for you.
With Einstein referral scoring, you can convert more referrals faster. At Cumulus Bank, creating and tracking referrals for a new mortgage or new credit card helps me address my customers' needs and build customer loyalty. Now, with Einstein referral scoring, I can use data science and machine learning to discover my firm's patterns of referral conversion to predict which of my current referrals to prioritize. In this example, I have an existing customer named Rachel Adams who has expressed an interest in a personal loan. A personal banker creates the referral in Financial Services Cloud. Now, when I come in as a sales manager to look at my referrals, I can see a list of my top referrals ranked by referral score. I can filter by expressed interest and time. I want to prioritize the highest scoring referrals and decide to connect with Rachel, the highest scoring referral, first. On Rachel's lead page, I can quickly review her information and take action, like logging a call. In Einstein referral scoring, I have 3 models that my admin can set up and customize. These predictive scoring models are based on data from a referral's account, the referrer's score, the recipient's conversion record, as well as product and expressed interest-based segmentation. My admin can review the prediction quality and top predictors for these models and make any adjustments if needed. Prioritize your referral pipeline with Einstein referral scoring to increase your conversion rates, build customer loyalty, and grow your business.
Awesome. Okay, and I'm realizing that we're really close on time at this point, so I'm going to kind of push through the last couple of slides here. We also have the action plan enhancements. So not only are you allowed to have an action plan out there, but you're actually able to take that template, completely clone not just the template itself, but all the different tasks that are in underneath it, and update those. So this is perfect for going into a new year. The example that they have here on the demo is taking all of your tasks from 2019 and putting that into 2020. So being able to prioritize to say if you need the W-2, maybe it was last year, it was 2018, now you need to say that the new task needs to be pulling the information for 2019. Maybe there are particular promotions that went away last year or new promotions that you need to add, and you can add those as tasks to say, you need to make sure that you have this information pushed out to your customer or have these discussions with your customer as a task perspective from an action plan. So there is, again, the notes here, and then also a quick 2-minute demo that will make sure it gets put out on Chatter for you guys so that you can see this, but kind of just a cool, again, not necessarily 100% focused on the insurance vertical, but I've definitely found use cases for a lot of the insurance companies that I'm working with to just kind of help make that transition a little bit better for action plans going forward for all of their users. So that said, want to make sure that we do some general announcements because I know that you guys were right at time here. We're doing a little swag time. So if you guys are interested and want to go up and do a follow-up post on Twitter today, just make sure that you include the hashtag Salesforce for Insurance and then @mention Salesforce and Trailblazer. The first 2 people who post something, I will look at those hashtags and send you some swag. From our swag store. So a t-shirt is what I am posting today. And then we've got some upcoming meetings coming up. A lovely follow-up from Mike's COE role today was the user adoptions best practices. We have 2 wonderful women, Sky and Yves, who are going to be coming to talk. They did a presentation about this at Dreamforce last year, and they are going to come present to us. So that is up and available for you guys to register. We're really excited to have that here. And then kind of wanted to give a quick shout out to the financial services user group or community group as well. Cheryl and her team over there are actually working along with us. On April 30th, we are going to have an in-person in New York City evening where we're going to talk about all the things that are financial services related. So we'll have a little bit in the wealth management and banking, some insurance. So if you guys are in and around the New York area, we'd love to have you join us at the Silverline headquarters there in New York. But do not fret if you are not in the New York area, because we will have a virtual component of that. And we will also post an agenda. So if you don't want to join for the entire 6-hour time or 3-hour time frame, we can have you join at the specific time that is most interested to you. So with that said, appreciate all of your time today. Thank you so much to the speakers. Alexis, you're a great partner to be with, so thank you so much for all of your help in putting this together. And thank you to the community for coming out, continuing to help us, support us. We are excited for this coming year. We have all of our meetings posted on the collaboration site, so make sure that you check those out. We've got some great topics coming up, and just appreciate your feedback. So thank you all, appreciate it, and you have a wonderful, wonderful day. Thanks all.
Great job, and thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thanks, Danielle. Thanks, Alexis. Thanks all.
Yeah, absolutely.